Do you ever feel like people just don't listen to you? You're in a conversation, you say something you consider important, and it's as if your words dissolve into thin air. Nobody reacts, nobody truly responds, and you're left standing there feeling invisible. Meanwhile, you see that other guy in the group, the one who, when he speaks, everyone goes quiet and pays attention, as if every word he says carries a weight that yours don't have. You wonder what he has that you don't, why people gravitate toward his presence while you seem to repel attention without even trying. Maybe you've tried to be funnier, more interesting, more whatever you think you need to be, but nothing changes. The truth is, there's something deeper happening, something most men don't understand about how real charisma is built. That magnetism that makes people want to be near you, listen to you, respect you. And the worst part is you're probably making fundamental mistakes that destroy any possibility of developing that presence, mistakes that keep you trapped in a cycle of being ignored, underestimated, forgotten. Before we continue, I need to make something very clear to you. This is not a video created to entertain you with flashy visual effects or quick cuts that keep your brain stimulated like you're a child. It was created to teach you something that can completely transform the way people perceive and respond to your presence. The value of what you're about to hear is in the words, in the concepts, in the principles I'm going to share with you. We're not going to waste time with meaningless images just to capture your superficial attention. This is content for men who truly want to evolve, who are tired of being invisible and are willing to do the internal work necessary to change that. If you're looking for empty entertainment, there are millions of videos out there that will give you exactly that. But if you want real development, stay and listen to every word, because what's coming can change your life. I've studied for years the way men like Thomas Shelby build that magnetic presence that makes everyone in a room gravitate toward them with no apparent effort. And one thing becomes clear. Real charisma has nothing to do with being the loudest, the funniest, or the most extroverted. It has to do with 5 fundamental principles that most men constantly violate without even realizing it. And when you violate these principles, it doesn't matter how much you try to improve your personality or your social skills, you'll continue being invisible. Today I'm going to show you the 5 most destructive mistakes that are killing your charisma. Those invisible patterns that keep you trapped in social mediocrity, while other less qualified men capture all the attention and respect you desire. And more importantly, I'm going to teach you exactly how to correct each of these mistakes so you can start building that personal magnetism that makes people seek you out instead of ignoring you. The first mistake, and probably the most destructive, is constantly trying to add value through words instead of presence. Watch any man without charisma and you'll see the same pattern. He talks too much, explains too much, tries too hard to demonstrate his value through what he says. Every time there's silence in the conversation, he rushes to fill it with more words, more anecdotes, more desperate attempts to be interesting. And what he doesn't understand is that every additional word is diluting his perceived value. Men like Thomas Shelby understand something fundamental about power. People who truly have value don't need to constantly prove it. Their presence speaks for them. When they enter a room, they don't need to announce their importance or tell elaborate stories to capture attention. Attention comes to them naturally because they project an energy of internal certainty, of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need external validation. The problem is that most men operate from a place of scarcity, from the unconscious belief that if they're not constantly adding value through words, they'll be forgotten or ignored. And that very energy of neediness is exactly what makes them repellent. The solution isn't to talk more or become more quiet in a forced way, but to develop such a solid presence that your silence has more weight than other men's words. This means working on your internal security, on your ability to be comfortable in silence, on your skill to genuinely listen, instead of always preparing what you're going to say next. When you speak from a place of internal abundance instead of need, everything changes. Your words have weight because you don't waste them, and your presence has magnetism because you don't dilute it with social anxiety. The second mistake is trying to be liked by everyone instead of establishing clear boundaries. This is devastating because it creates a paradox. The more you try to please everyone, the less respect you generate, and the less respect you generate, the less charisma you have. I've observed this over and over. Men who constantly adapt to group opinions, who never express disagreement, who always say yes when they should say no, who sacrifice their own preferences to keep the peace. And they do it thinking this will make them more liked, more popular, more charismatic. But the effect is exactly the opposite. People don't respect or feel attracted to someone who has no backbone, to someone who seems to have no strong opinions or personal boundaries. When you study the way strategic leaders like Thomas Shelby operate, you see something completely different. They don't seek anyone's approval. They have clear lines they don't cross, principles they don't negotiate. And if someone doesn't like them or isn't aligned with their values, they don't lose sleep over it. That firmness, that willingness to be rejected by the wrong people is exactly what makes them magnetic to the right people. Real charisma comes from authenticity, and authenticity is only possible when you're willing to establish boundaries and defend your psychological territory. This doesn't mean being aggressive or needlessly confrontational. It means knowing when to say no, when to express disagreement in a calm but firm manner, when to withdraw from situations that don't serve you. When you start operating this way, something interesting happens. You lose some people, but you gain deep respect from others, and those other people are exactly the ones worth having in your life. Your charisma isn't about being loved by everyone. It's about being respected and valued by the people who truly matter. The third mistake is showing emotional reactivity instead of stoic control. Nothing destroys charisma faster than the inability to manage your emotions under pressure. Watch what happens when a man without charisma faces criticism, a challenge, or a provocation. His face changes immediately. His body language becomes defensive. His voice rises in pitch. His entire being screams insecurity and lack of control. And in that moment, any respect or attraction he might have generated evaporates instantly. People observe these reactions and make quick judgments about your value as a man, about your leadership capacity, about whether you're someone they can trust or someone who crumbles at the first sign of pressure. Men like Thomas Shelby built their reputation precisely because of their ability to maintain an almost supernatural calm in the face of situations that would make normal men collapse. It's not about not feeling emotions. It's about not allowing those emotions to control your actions or your external expression. It's the difference between experiencing anger internally and acting from that anger impulsively. The man with real charisma feels the emotion, processes it internally, and then consciously chooses how to respond in a way that serves his strategic interests. This requires a level of self-control that most men never develop because they live on emotional autopilot, reacting to every external stimulus as if they have no choice. But you do have a choice. You can train your nervous system to respond instead of react. You can develop that space between stimulus and your response where your true power resides. And when you do, when people see that nothing destabilizes you, that you maintain your composure even when others are losing theirs, your charisma multiplies exponentially because you project an image of internal strength that is magnetic by nature. The fourth mistake is focusing on impressing instead of creating genuine connection. The difference is subtle but devastating. The man without charisma enters every social interaction thinking about how he can demonstrate his value, how he can impress others with his achievements, his knowledge, his experiences. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to show how intelligent, successful, or interesting he is. And while this might occasionally generate superficial admiration, it never generates real connection. And without real connection, there's no true charisma. People can be impressed by you but not feel connected to you. And it's that connection that creates loyalty, deep respect, and lasting magnetism. When you observe how the most charismatic leaders operate, you see something completely different. They make other people feel important. They ask genuine questions. They listen with real attention. They find ways to make the other person shine in the conversation. And paradoxically, by doing this, their own perceived value increases enormously because they demonstrate a rare characteristic in the modern world: the ability to be present and genuinely interested in other human beings. This doesn't mean becoming an interviewer or sacrificing your own presence. It means operating from a place of abundance where you don't need to constantly prove your value because you already know it internally. When you have that internal security, you can afford to make others feel valued without feeling like you're losing something in the process. And that generosity of attention, that ability to make people feel seen and heard when they're with you, is one of the most powerful components of authentic charisma. People will remember how you made them feel much more than they'll remember any achievement you mentioned. The fifth mistake, and probably the most insidious, is living without clear mission or defined purpose. This is fundamental because real charisma cannot be faked, cannot be acted, cannot be learned as a set of superficial techniques. Authentic charisma emanates from men who are building something meaningful, who have a clear vision of where they're going and what they're creating in the world. That energy of purpose is palpable. People feel it even if they can't articulate it consciously. When a man enters a room and projects that energy of being on a mission, of having direction and conviction, he automatically generates respect and attraction. Conversely, a man without clear purpose, without defined mission, projects an energy of drifting, of being lost, of seeking external validation because he doesn't have a clear internal compass. And that energy is repellent. It doesn't matter how many social techniques you learn. It doesn't matter how much you work on your body language or your conversational skills. If you don't have a clear mission driving you, your charisma will always be superficial and easy to see through. Men like Thomas Shelby are magnetic precisely because they're obsessed with a vision, with building an empire, with achieving objectives that go beyond social approval or personal comfort. That obsession with something bigger than themselves gives them an intensity and focus that people find irresistible. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what are you building? What's your mission? What drives you every morning beyond surviving or seeking temporary pleasure? If you don't have clear answers to these questions, that's your fundamental problem, not your lack of charisma. Charisma is a symptom of having a meaningful life, not something you can superficially add to a directionless life. Now, I need you to understand something crucial about these 5 mistakes. They're not just small flaws you can correct with a few tricks or superficial techniques. They're manifestations of deeper problems related to your identity, your self-esteem, and your way of understanding human value. When you constantly try to add value through words, you're operating from an unconscious belief that you're not enough as you are. When you try to please everyone, you're operating from fear of rejection and lack of security in your own value. When you show emotional reactivity, you're operating from a nervous system that never learned to regulate itself under pressure. When you focus on impressing, you're operating from a need for external validation. And when you live without clear mission, you're operating from a lack of connection to something bigger than your own comfort. All these mistakes have deep psychological roots, and correcting them requires more than superficial behavior changes. It requires a transformation in how you see yourself and how you relate to the world. It requires that you do the difficult internal work that most men avoid their entire lives. But here's the good news. When you start doing that work, when you start developing genuine internal security, when you start establishing clear boundaries, when you train your emotional control, when you begin operating from abundance instead of scarcity, when you find and pursue a meaningful mission, charisma emerges naturally. You don't have to act charismatic or fake confidence. You simply become the type of man who naturally attracts respect and attention because you're operating from a place of real internal power. And this is where many men get lost. They seek external solutions for internal problems. They look for body language techniques when the problem is their lack of internal security. They search for clever conversation lines when the problem is their inability to be present. They look for social psychology tricks when the problem is their lack of vital purpose. And they can apply all those superficial techniques and get marginal temporary results. But they'll never develop that deep and lasting charisma that makes people seek them out, respect them, and genuinely value them. Because that kind of charisma doesn't come from outside in. It comes from inside out. It's the natural result of being a man who has done the work of building himself, of developing real character, of living with integrity and purpose. When you have that, when you truly have that at an internal level, your presence changes. The way you move through the world changes. The way people respond to you changes. And it's not because you're doing something different superficially. It's because you are someone different fundamentally. Let me give you a broader perspective on this. In the modern world, most men are operating from a state of total confusion about what it means to be a man of value. They've been told their entire lives to be nice, not to offend anyone, to suppress their natural instincts, to apologize for taking up space. And then they wonder why nobody respects them, why they have no charisma, why they feel invisible. The answer is simple. They've been domesticated. They've lost touch with that primal masculine energy that naturally generates respect and attraction. I'm not talking about being toxic or aggressive. I'm talking about recovering that ability to establish boundaries, to defend territory, to move through the world with conviction and purpose. The most charismatic men I've studied, from historical leaders to modern figures of power, all share that quality of being completely comfortable in their own skin, of not apologizing for being who they are, of establishing their frame and making others enter it instead of constantly adapting their personality to others' frames. And that's not something you can fake or act. It's something you have to develop through experience, through facing challenges, through failing and getting back up, through setting high standards for yourself and consistently meeting them. If you've made it this far and something I've said resonates with you, if you recognize these mistakes in your own life, I need to ask you something. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm not asking you because I need numbers or validation. I'm asking you because if this content has helped you see something you didn't see before, if it's given you clarity about why you've been struggling socially, then it deserves your support so I can continue creating content that truly helps men transform themselves. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to challenge you, to show you uncomfortable truths, to give you the tools you need to build the kind of presence and charisma that makes people genuinely respect you. And if you value that, if you value content that treats you like an adult capable of handling the truth instead of feeding you comfortable lies, then give that like and subscribe. It's a simple way to say this type of content matters and that you want to see more of it. Now, let me leave you with one final truth you need to internalize. Charisma is not a trait you're born with. It's not something magical that some people have and others don't. It's the direct result of who you are as a man, of the decisions you make, of the internal work you do, of the principles you live by. Each of these 5 mistakes we've discussed today is correctable. Each of them can be transformed if you're willing to do the work. But it requires brutal honesty with yourself about where you are now and willingness to get uncomfortable in the change process. It requires that you stop looking for easy solutions and accept that building real charisma is part of the broader process of becoming a man of genuine value. And that process never ends. There's always another level of mastery. There are always ways to refine your presence. There are always aspects of your character that can be strengthened. The most charismatic men I know are not complacent. They don't think they've already arrived. They're constantly working on themselves, constantly refining their leadership capacity, constantly expanding their influence and impact. And you can be one of those men if you choose to be, if you decide you're not going to accept being invisible or ignored for the rest of your life, if you commit to the transformation process no matter how long it takes or how uncomfortable it is. That's the path. There are no shortcuts. There are no magic tricks. Just consistent work on becoming the version of yourself that naturally attracts respect, admiration, and loyalty. The question is, are you willing to walk that path, or are you going to keep looking for easy solutions that will never take you where you really want to be? The choice is yours. It always has been.